And what does it mean for software development organizations like Luxoft to be agile?
Luxoft can't be, or any outsourcer can't be agile by themselves, because one of the essential ideas in Agile, expressed by the third Agile value, is customer collaboration over contract negotiation. And the fourth Agile value, responding to change over following a plan. And if the partner of the outsourcer, whether it's Luxoft or Valtech or whoever, if that partner, the bank, the insurance company, whatever, doesn't want to enter a new relationship of collaboration, then the outsourcer really can't be agile on their own, because agile isn't a programming practice or an engineering practice, although it includes some practices in that area. It's a change in the relationship between business and the team, where the product owner is not an IT manager or a project manager, but there's someone from business, like a manager in an accounting group, who directly prioritizes the backlog, who directly works with the team in a sprint in order to get them to build something, who directly looks at the results at the end of the sprint, and then inspects and adapts on the adaptively planned choice of what to do in the next sprint. Because that's what Agile is about, not just something the teams do separately. So what could it mean for Luxoft to be an agile outsourced developer? It would really mean that Luxoft themselves has mastered from their side the team-related skills to applying Scrum, to being self-organizing, to have well-done work that's potentially shippable every sprint. And they're working with a partner who, on the other side, who similarly understands the role of the product owner and behaves differently. But there are things that Luxoft can do independently in order to fulfill their side of the game, which is that they can form truly cross-functional teams. Luxoft can create teams where people are multi-learning, instead of the team saying, people on the team saying, well, I'm the business analyst, I'll do the business analysis tasks, or I'm the tester, I'll do the testing tasks. The Luxoft people can move to the idea of, I'm a team member, I've got a primary skill and I do that, but I also work in secondary skills and learn and increase the team's flexibility. And Luxoft separately, to be more agile, can try to simplify their processes to eliminate any unnecessary overhead so that the cost of change is reduced. What else? The team members can focus on increasing their transparency so that to each of their other team members they're really being transparent about how they're working, and that each team member truly makes an internal commitment to the idea of really creating the best high-quality work that meets the definition of done, rather than playing quality games. I think, to me, those are some of the big ideas.
Okay. What challenges the customer should be ready to address while dealing with Agile vendor?
You know, to me, the interesting, ironic thing is that there's very little problems for the customer side to move to the adoption of Scrum. It's almost just full of advantages with very little problems. And that's why it's always, I'll say, frustrating to work with customers who aren't interested in engaging, because there's so much benefit for them for so little investment. But it does mean a change of behavior. It means the willingness to be at sprint planning part 1 and meet with the team, the willingness to be at the sprint review at the end of the sprint and to actually examine the features in the product and to spend some time giving concrete feedback, the willingness to interact with the team regularly. And maybe some customers would say, well, I'm too busy for that and don't bother me. But you know, in the early 1990s, there was a report by a group that looked at 23,000 projects over many years and looked at the question, what were success and failure factors? And when they compiled the list, the number one failure factor for projects, and as a corollary, a factor for success, was the amount of engagement by the real business customers directly with the team. And in projects where there was very low engagement, or there was just engagement at the beginning and then they went away and waited for the big system to be done, those projects were associated with very high rates of failure. And on the other hand, groups where the customers participated regularly with engagement, feedback, evaluation with the teams, the projects were strongly correlated with success. So if what the customer wants is not wasting their money and actually getting a system which is fit for purpose, aligned with their business needs, and isn't a massive failure where 10 or 110 million euros have been spent, just money down the drain, then taking the time to regularly, each sprint, interact with the team is one of the cheapest things that they can do to getting a better product. And if the customers view that as a problem, well, then I guess they could classify that as a problem. I classify that as the change in behavior which will lead to a business benefit. Another problem that businesses sometimes confront when they're starting to introduce or adopt Scrum is the following. There's this metaphor in Lean called the rocks in the lake. And there's a lake, it's got a water level, and there's rocks in it. And those rocks represent the weaknesses in the organization, which could be in the business group, in the R&D group, or elsewhere. And those rocks could be inefficient practices, lack of trust, lack of transparency, unskillful people, ineffective communication, game playing, the belief that command and control actually works rather than effective management practices, and on and on. And when Scrum is introduced, or Lean practices in general, it lowers the water in the lake. In traditional organizations, often this water level is very high, and there's all of these big rocks that are these weaknesses that are there but are hidden. And when you introduce Scrum, which is interacting with business groups, it can create this forcing function to reveal the weaknesses in the organization, like lack of trust, lack of collaboration, ineffective communication, handoff problems, and so forth. And in that sense, Scrum will expose these weaknesses. And then someone in the business group will say, oh, Scrum, the introduction of Scrum is creating all of these problems that didn't exist before. But of course they were always there, but now it's being exposed. And in that sense, the introduction of Scrum can create a problem for the organization. But I would say that's actually an opportunity for deep improvement. But because we're talking about people and people's reputation and ego, and just their assumptions of the status quo, that can lead to all kinds of friction and finger pointing and blame shifting and so on and so forth. And then, as they say in English, people are going to end up shedding more heat instead of light on the problem.